So let me ask you first, what kind of discussions are you having with the UK at the moment about Iran?
Well, obviously we're in a new situation because the Iranians have decided to openly and publicly violate the nuclear agreement, the JCPOA. And it's clear from our perspective there have to be consequences. There have to be consequences. The Iranians cannot violate the agreement and expect the international community to continue as business as usual.
On those consequences that you talk about, how much support do you feel you're getting from the international community on that view?
I think there's a growing understanding that the Iranians have used the deal just to promote their own nefarious agenda. You've seen since the deal was signed in 2015, the Iranian missile program, the development of ballistic missiles, has continued very aggressively. Their nefarious behavior in the region, their subversion in countries like Iraq, Yemen, what they're doing in Syria, in Gaza, in Lebanon, has just continued to be a problem and a bigger problem. Their support of terrorism has just increased. So for all these reasons, we think it's right that the international community adopt a more robust position with Iran. Basically, the message must be this. If the Iranians want to be treated like a normal country, well, maybe first they should start acting like a normal country.
If the international community, though, does step up the sanctions or any kind of punishments on Iran, are you not concerned about the repercussions that could have globally for geopolitical relations?
I am concerned about repercussions if the Iranians believe they can do all these terrible things, supporting terrorism, missile programs, subvergence, terrorism, all this, and think that they can get away with it. They can have their cake and eat it too. I'd be concerned if they thought that they could have normal relations with the international community and still adopt these very negative policies.
Ambassador, we're thrilled to have you with us today. You've served many tours in Hong Kong and Washington as well. I was thunderstruck this weekend in the Jewish Chronicle, in the Guardian as well, the collapse of the Labour Party in the United Kingdom over anti-Semitism. Color for our global audience the character and the quality of anti-Semitism that you see from certain members of the Labour Party.
It's very sad and it's disturbing. I mean, my father was a survivor of the Nazi Holocaust, and there was this feeling after those terrible years that humanity had finally learned its lesson, that we could finally throw what is one of the oldest hatreds on the planet, anti-Semitism, on the dust heap of history where it belongs, that this would finally be rejected, that it would be a relic of the past. But we've seen in recent years, unfortunately, that this oldest of hatreds has returned with force. We've seen that in Europe. We've seen the terrible attacks on the synagogues in the United States, and you're correct. We've seen it here in the United Kingdom, too.
Within the United Kingdom and the heritage back at least to the 19th century of welcoming Jews into the business community and into the political community as well, there have to be regime changes. If we have Prime Minister Johnson, if we have Prime Minister Hunt, what change, what dialogue do they need to have to change the anti-Semitic tone that is being discussed?
So I know both gentlemen well because both have served as Foreign Secretary, one currently, one previously, and as Ambassador I met with them regularly. I was with them when they met his Israeli leaders. The truth is this, both of them are friends of Israel, both of them are friends of the Jewish people, and whoever the Conservative Party decides who will be Britain's next Prime Minister, I'm very confident that we'll see the relationship continue to grow from strength to strength. And if you don't mind me saying, I mean, our political and security relationship is very robust, very strong. Our economic relationship, economic ties between the UK and Israel continue to reach record levels. Last year, we reached 8.6 billion British pounds in bilateral trade. That was up from 25% the previous year, and I expect to see similar growth this year, too.
Ambassador, I know that Naira has some important questions on the moment, but I really must mention the dinner that you hold for part of the Muslim community within the United Kingdom at your residence. How do you parse the different tensions of the Muslim community of the United Kingdom? What would you say to the British people about how they need to approach a new Muslim United Kingdom?
Listen, Jews and Muslims have to work together, talk together. We have to partner. And there are those extremists who say that the Jews are the enemies of all Muslims. It's rubbish. It's not true. We have to find partnerships here in Britain and everywhere. I'm very happy to tell you that today in the Middle East, and we saw that in Bahrain, Israel is talking to more Arab countries than ever before. We're talking to more Muslim countries than ever before. I think today we have relations, strong relations with some of our neighbors, countries that previously saw Israel as an enemy. Today are increasingly seeing Israel as a partner and even as an ally. These are good things, and we want to encourage that.
Does Jared Kushner's plan have any more chance of success for Israel and Palestine than previous plans?
So we'll wait and see. Obviously, everyone knows the difficulties, and we have to be realistic. But the Americans have taken this very, very seriously, and we're open. We're willing to see what they have. We want to see the peace process move forward. Now, we've seen some very positive movement between Israel and the Arab states. Israel today is talking to countries in North Africa, in the Gulf, countries that we didn't used to talk to. Can we also improve our relationship with the Palestinians? I hope so.
Do you think that Israel should annex the West Bank?
I think that Israel has to worry about our security, but we want peace with our neighbors. And we have to find a way where we have Israel recognized by our neighbors, Israel secure, and Israel living in peace with all our neighbors.
So what is the solution then? What kind of solution can be had given internal Palestinian divisions?
So it's a problem because the Palestinian leadership is divided and weak, and the Palestinians in many ways shoot themselves in the foot. Why didn't they go to Bahrain? An international summit was organized for economic support for the Palestinian people, talking about raising literally billions of dollars to support the Palestinian economy, to encourage investment instead of just welfare. And the Palestinian leadership decides to officially boycott. Thankfully, I think nearly all the Arab countries were there, and there's amazing support for this. But this is just an example, I think, of the Palestinians. There's an old cliche that needs to be repeated sometimes, that they never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity.
OK, so Israeli elections are going to run as planned in September. What kind of leader does Israel need? Well,
the truth is, in some countries, they know the results of the elections before they happen, yes? In Israel, we don't. In Israel, we had elections in April. We're having elections again because the Prime Minister could not succeed in forming a coalition, so we're having elections again in September. I don't know who will win. I'm proud to tell you that I am the representative of the only Middle Eastern country that has competitive, real elections where the people are sovereign, and the Israeli people will choose in September who will form the next government in Israel.